Welcome to With Love, The Chambers.
Where life, laughter, and lasting lessons meet.
We're The Chambers, a husband and wife navigating faith, family, and everything in between.
Here we share real stories, heartfelt conversations, and a whole lot of love. Because life isn't perfect, but God's grace sure is.
So pull up a seat, grab a cup of coffee, or go ahead and sip that tea, and join us for honest talks, laughs, and the wisdom we're learning along the way. This is With Love, The Chambers. Welcome to another With Love Wednesday. I am Jamila Chambers here with my husband, the vision engineer, Rufus Chambers, and we're so excited to welcome you to this week's episode. As always, before we kick off our conversation today, we want to thank all of our listeners, all of our viewers, all of you that have watched, listened, shared, given us comments, feedback, shared your questions with us. We really appreciate all the support that we have received locally and quite frankly around the world. I think South Africa is the largest contingent holding it down in South Africa. So thank you so very much for doing that. Any shout outs to anybody before we get started today?
I think you have done it.
Oh, I've done all the shout outs today.
You've done some shouting.
Okay. So here's our topic for today.
All right.
Sometimes we have difficulty coping. And in the pandemic, I really started to adopt this phrase. When people would ask me how I'm doing, I would say I'm holding myself together with duct tape and laughter. Like I'm holding myself together with duct tape and laughter. And duct tape really is supposed to be a temporary way.
That's true.
That you make a repair, that you hold something together. It's supposed to be temporary, but you know, like where we grow up, duct tape becomes
all-purpose utility.
All purpose. It becomes the way the bumper stays on the car for years and years and years. It becomes the way the fixture stays up in the house when it's supposed to be repaired. I'm holding myself together with something that's supposed to be a temporary adhesive, but it is being utilized with a sense of permanence. And I'm holding myself together with humor. And so sometimes humor can be used, and comedians are masterful at this.
Absolutely.
Utilizing humor to mask pain, to mask distress, to mask crisis. I'm holding myself together with something temporary, or that's designed to be temporary, and with humor. And so I want to talk today and really get into today the way people cope. Ways that people cope that are healthy ways to cope, ways that we should adopt for coping and handling the weight and pressures of things, and the ways people cope that are unhealthy and can get us into trouble and can get us into places and spaces that we don't want to be in. And so many of our viewers and listeners and people around the world are coping with so much and dealing with so much and have so much weight and burden for a variety of reasons on their shoulders. So before we get into some of the healthy ways to cope, I just want to have you share with our listeners and viewers with how you cope and just what coping looks like just for you in general.
Yeah, coping, there's some tension even on that usage of vernacular. You know what I mean? Because coping, when I hear the term, I think that a person is living or suffering through something that either hasn't changed or can't change. And, you know, as a person of faith, right, that is something that is part of our job description, you know, having endurance, having long suffering, you know, having the stick-to-itness to endure seasons of hardship. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there, you know, as we're talking about coping. And I think for me, and, you know, some of the things that I try and do to be able to endure and just live through things is, number one, my personal time with God, be it prayer, be it meditation, be it worship, or be it, listening to, sermons or something that's feeding my soul and feeding my spirit, that aligns with my faith. That's something that I do to make sure that I'm spending that time so that I can live through whatever I need to live through. So to me, that's key. That's paramount for me. And it's about investing on the inner man. Jude 20 talks about, praying. The writer uses the term pray in the spirit to build yourself up on your most holy faith. It's that personal devotion so that we can be strong in the Lord and the power of his might to be able to withstand, right? So when I think coping, that's always where I start. And, sometimes it's fun stuff, it is, aside from, aside from the disciplines of our faith.
Shout out to Country Wayne.
Yeah, it I wasn't going there.
Shout out to Country Wayne.
But yeah,
shout out to Country Wayne.
I do partake in a Facebook and YouTube comedic series, Country Wayne. That content I enjoy. I'm a classic car buff. I'm a car buff, so I do sometimes. And at first, when I look at cars. I look at cars for sale and as if I'm buying cars daily, and I'm not, but it's just it's almost like what I call a healthy, the car shopping is a healthy hobby, and sometimes it can be an escape. Sometimes just say, hey, what's out there? What's being bought? What's being sold? Oh, wow, And, I have other car buffs that we communicate about cars, so, and I feel like it's it's a healthy outlet, that as far as I'm concerned, it's not harming me. It's not harming my family. It's not harming our finances usually.
Most of the time not.
Because the truth, if I look at 1,000 cars a month online, we're not buying a car every month. So that's probably how I'll justify it, not doing harm. But my wife is giving me the side
We are
eye.
not going there about the cars,
right? But as far as, coping, I think what's important is that we do find outlets. Exercise, I'm not exercising consistently now, but that can also be a healthy coping or even walking. But I think what I'm trying to say in this opening segment is that we find healthy means and outlets that do not violate, our covenant with God or violate our covenant with each other, or our responsibilities, or those that we love and cherish most. I think that's I just want to contextualize that there. What about you? I mean, what are?
Yeah, so I think in different phases of my life, I felt about it differently. But since my brother passed, and I've shared that he passed away in 2013 and passed away suddenly and passed away tragically, that was the first time that I was really, really faced with, I'm not sure how I'm breathing. I feel like the first year, at least after his passing, it felt like I was holding my breath. I wasn't literally, but it felt like I was walking around with my shoulders raised and holding my breath, and I didn't realize that, there was some centering that needed to happen, because it was just such a traumatic loss and so sudden. And that was the first time when I start talking about like really, really having to hold myself together. And the pandemic was another time, really, really feeling like what is happening is totally out of my control and out of my realm. and I can't change it. I can't, go back and reverse it, and I've got to find a way through. And before I talk about some of the things that I did, I want to just pause and say there were some things, and I don't think I've said it publicly in this forum, but there were some things that happened very, very early on between you and I when my brother passed that I think were so instrumental and so key to getting me to a place of coping, handling, being able to bear up under the weight of it. My birthday is November 2nd. My brother passed away on November 7th. Very, very early on, you told me, and I want to say it was within hours of us coming to the knowledge of my brother's passing, or within days of that, you said to me, Jamila, tell me what this week is going to be like. And I'm paraphrasing, like, tell me what this first week of November is going to be like moving forward, because we can't change the date. Tell me, like, you decide right now, today, within moments of this happening, you decide what this is going to be like, because we can't, there's no flipping this date back. We can't reverse the calendar. We can't turn these pages back and make this week something other than the challenge that it is. It will always be the week that you celebrate your birthday. It will always be the week that's the anniversary of your brother's passing. Like, that's what this week is going to be, from here on out. And you even posing that question to me in the midst of grief, I wasn't prepared to answer it necessarily, but you even posing the thought that I could decide.
Yeah, I think this is what I recall.
See, we all recall it differently.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that conversation happened the year after.
Really?
We're about to celebrate your 40th
I'm telling you, the time gets warped. But yes.
Because
yes.
the next year was your 40th birthday.
Yes.
And I think we hadn't got to the 1-year anniversary of Jason's passing. So I think that was the conversation of, that's how I remember it, because it was like, wow, this is the first anniversary. You're celebrating a milestone birthday. His passing follows that.
Yes.
What do you want to do with this period of time?
Yes. And that's so interesting how grief works. I described it as, I think you said it that day, and you describe it as, that was about 9 months later.
That would have been that's bold.
You bold, yeah.
I'm not that bold.
Yeah. But either way, that shows you how grief works. Yeah. So if anybody is, and I want to pause and say this, for people that are grieving, that's a real thing. For people that are grieving and
The
going through
timeline is like, where was
the timing, the way you remember things, the
Yes.
timing, all of that. And that's why we tell people, like, sincerely, don't make decisions and like really significant life decisions and choices in your moment of grief, because you think you're in your right mind, or you think you're having a clear moment and a moment of clarity. And just like we're sitting here now, and it's been 12 years or so now, I still remember that as, you said that week, or you said that day, and you're like, no, honey, that wasn't that day. That was several months later. And so, but you said it. You challenged me in that moment to be able to at least have the seed planted that there was a choice that I could eventually make about how I was going to govern my life moving forward. And that, coupled with our oldest daughter sharing that birthday, November 2nd, was so tremendous for me. I used to begrudge when she was born. Oh my goodness, she's born on my birthday, and we share this birthday, and oh my goodness. And it ended up in a lot of ways, but especially through this challenge of grief and coping. It ended up in a lot of ways being a tremendous blessing, because as a mom, sometimes you do things for your kids that you won't do for yourself. You'll straighten up your back a little bit. You will press forward. You will find, a level of resilience for the sake of your children that you won't always find for yourself. And I'm not sure if even those first years I was celebrating or in a celebratory posture because of that conversation you had, but I certainly would find myself in a celebratory posture because I got to do it for the girl.
That's true.
And that held me and sustained me until it became more authentic to do it for myself again. But I remember and having this conversation about just holding it together in moments that seem impossible to hold it together. I remember that conversation being pivotal, and I remember conversations with people, and I don't know who to give the credit to. So one of our covenant friends can correct me in the comments, but I remember someone telling me that being okay is okay. Like, being just okay is okay. And sometimes, especially not only culturally for me, but a lot with my personality, with the type of work that I do, and just kind of who I am walking around the world, there's this expectation that I'm the person that makes everybody else feel good.
Lit.
You come to me, you're going to get that shot in the arm. I've been referred to as a defibrillator. If you feeling down, go talk to Jamila, and she going to clear,
That's right.
and bring you back. And I thank God for that gifting and for that ability. But what happens when I'm not on 10 today? I'm somewhere around a 2. And 2 is 100% of what I can give
and
today.
That's okay.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
And that's okay. And I didn't have the context for like that being
and
okay.
I think you just tapped into something. I want you to explain what the process was for you giving yourself permission to be at 2. Because like you said, I mean, for those of you who don't know, Jamila has this larger than life personality. That's your default.
Like,
big personality,
Yes.
always been, smooches. We talked about smooches in a couple episodes ago, but that's a thing, right? And you love it.
It is very much a
one
part
thing
of
I
my
always joke about you,
personality.
Jamila, you like to make yourself laugh.
Yes.
Which is like, what?
Yes.
Because you'll just be chuckling about something you said. It's like, wow, that's deep.
I laugh at my own jokes.
Yeah,
I don't need an audience. Yes.
And even when you're rebuking the girls, you'll laugh. Or when you'll smile check a person, you're laughing as you're checking a person. So it's a whole thing. And to me, sometimes I feel like
you said something about a smile check. Anyway, I will have you explain smile checking later.
Smile check is when, because again,
that's a term at home. That's what I said. People might not know what a smile check is.
So again, it's when Jamila will rebuke somebody with a smile, and with this cadence and with this enunciation and with this polish. But me and the girls know, you just got smile check.
You just got cussed out.
Yeah. So. But sometimes I feel like that's a blessing and a curse, right? Because, and that's what I always tell you, is like sometimes you feel like you gotta be on, but you're like, that's just who I am. And then when you can't be on, there's a burden. Something's off, something wrong. And I live the opposite. I hate to say it, right? Can you explain what that process was like when you are in a duct tape season of just holding it together? What was it like for you to tell yourself, I know you like to live on 10, but for right now, 2 on Monday is okay, 3 on Wednesday is okay, 5 on Thursday is okay. And if you had a 1 on Friday, that's okay. What was it like giving yourself that permission?
So in that instance, I didn't give myself permission. I was just there. And I think it was getting to a point of acceptance about it versus. So I would say first it was acceptance.
Okay.
First it was acceptance because I didn't have a choice. I couldn't. I was incapable of getting on 10 or having the personality or being in the space. I remember having a conversation with my sister, and she and I had to talk about it some years later, but I said, you know what, I'm going dark right now. So if you're going through something, and we're all grieving our brother, right? And I remember that being, and she can correct me with the timeline. I don't want to say another timeline because you see I got that twisted today. But it was somewhere after our brother's passing, and I remember going to her and saying, Jerry, I ain't got it. So whatever you going through, I can't talk to you about it because I don't have it. And she and I had to talk about that years later because it was almost offensive to her to a degree for me to say that, because that's not our relationship. That's not my posture. That's not my posture towards anybody. And I was like, no. Seriously.
You was putting on that air mask.
I just didn't have it. And so it was an acceptance of the limitations. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time that limit had been touched or reached. Yeah. There were other times, like I said, in the pandemic where, the world has changed. You got these kids, and I think many people can talk about experiencing that limit. But once I experienced that limit and understood that I was a mere mortal, now I give myself permission. And I think the permission has come with, now I recognize, this isn't one of those days, or this isn't one of those moments. So now I give myself permission to do that, and give myself permission to do that more frequently. Whereas in the past, that limit hadn't been reached, that boundary, hadn't been touched and had been crossed. And so at that moment, looking back, when my brother passed, it was really, I've never been here before. And I didn't know that this boundary existed. And I didn't know that I would ever find myself in a place or a space where I didn't have it. But no, this time I'm tapped out. And I gotta tap out. And it was finding out that I had those boundaries that really allowed, me to give myself the permission now. Now I know. I got boundaries.
That's good.
Discovering the boundaries. Now I know I have them. Now I know, and I pray to never be in that position again where I have to quite go all the way to that boundary that I went to before. But now I absolutely give myself the permission, and unapologetically give myself the permission now to dial up or dial back.
That's good.
The degree to which you're going to experience smooches or the personality or all the things, depending on, where I find myself in the amount of energy that I have to retain for me to be okay. And that was a very different place to be. And many of our listeners may find that they unexpectedly, found themselves at a boundary. But in finding myself at that boundary, and I want to talk about kind of some of the ways that I unraveled out of it and some of the things I'm doing now to unravel out of it. But in discovering that I had that boundaries, one of the, you talked about just that time with God. Oh my goodness. Mali Music had a song called Walking Shoes. And powerful song, and I can kind of get emotional now thinking about it. But I remember just that first year, we were living in Inglewood.
Literally.
At the time.
Hookahs. Was you in some hookahs?
I'm in them hookahs. The only reason I got these shoes on today, let me be clear. Let me be clear.
Not the hookah commercial.
Shout out to D, shout out to Q, shout out to everybody that's been shouting out our shoe game in these videos. But let me be clear.
Lord.
I got all kind of foot issues, and my family is embarrassed. Let's be clear. No, yes. Oh, don't make that face for the
Embarrassed of
camera.
what?
Of my hookahs, of
The
my
hookahs they went mainstream now.
now, but
See, you was a pioneer.
I was a pioneer when I started wearing them. They were so embarrassed about my shoe
I
game
see hookahs on the red carpet now.
that they said we got to go step you up. Like you can't go out with me. You can't. Like, we all dress like this and you got on these hookahs. Like, you need to step it up. And so I said, well, fine. If you want me to step it up, you go buy me some more shoes. So since you're so embarrassed, since this is bothering y'all so much, and it was the collective. It was Rufus, Winter, and Willow. It was the collective. My entire crew was embarrassed to be in the streets with me. So that's how I ended up with the shoe game. So shout out for the shoe problems. Amen. And shout out for my family stepping up with the shoe game. But literally, I was in my hookahs all those years ago, listening on repeat to Mally Music's Walking Shoes. And I just would walk for hours through the neighborhood, and that was my time of, we still had small children. Our kids were only 9 and 5, so we were in those years of active parenting with them. So that was my time to step away from the kids. That was my time to process just what was happening, what I was feeling. We had just moved back here to Los Angeles from the Bay Area. So even acclimating to being back in the city and then having this, we were just at home just a few months back in LA before my brother passed. So it was all of these emotions and all of the things. And for anybody that's connected with me and knowing kind of the work that I was doing at the time in the Dream Studio and as a dream releaser life coach and all of the things, one of my mantras in that season, and it's still a mantra, is that I want to create a life without limits, and so God, I want you to authenticate that life in me. And boy, I just didn't know the full price that would have to be paid for that authentication. And so it was all the things. But Mally has a line in that song that says, I believe, but it's a dream that I ain't seen yet. Chasing a dream that I ain't dreamed yet, but I'll meet it halfway if I keep on walking. And it was just so powerful. And that's what got me through that moment. I didn't quite know what to do or quite know, what posture I should take. We should talk about grief at some point on the pod because it's just so layered. Grief 12 years later, grief 30 plus years later, just what that looks like through all these stages. But I would tell the listener and tell someone that's viewing the podcast right now that the biggest thing that I will say is that you can't change the date. And we get the opportunity to decide, even if we aren't ready to decide right this moment, what our life is going to look like on the other side of this.
Absolutely.
We played that song at Jason's funeral, There Will Be Glory After this. And so what it looks like on the other side of this. And so when we talk about just coping and getting through and finding ourselves in that season, and I appreciate you pulling that up, because especially in church circles, we're supposed to be on top and rising. What you mean coping and just getting by and all that? But that's a real thing. And it's a real moment where we're just there, and we're not moving out of it fast, and there's no way around it, and there's no way under it, and there's nowhere over it. We just got to go through it. And so in the going through, just realizing that it's a going through.
That's good.
And it's not, Christ told his disciples, I'll meet you on the other side. He knew that storm was coming. But it's about getting to the other side. And I'm fundamentally different and changed, and all those things. I'm not the same person. We call it, and I'm sure we stole that term from somebody. We walk with a limp, and that's what grief is like. It's like having an invisible, being an invisible amputee to a degree, and we stole that from somebody so many years ago. I don't even know who to give credit to. I don't even know who to give credit to. We stole it so many years ago, but for those that are watching and viewing and feeling like, I don't know how to quite put language around that. Even having a vocabulary and language around it, and understanding that just being in it, we have the capacity to just be in it, was helpful to me for that seasons where I have to hold myself together with duct tape and a little bit of humor and a little bit of getting through. So no, thank you for sharing. I mean, I feel like even that terminology that you coined, duct tape and laughter, I think that's going to help people articulate where they may be at or where they used to be at. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because I think some people, they don't even have a vernacular to explain it. You know what I mean?
I'm just in it.
And, these seasons of endurance are seasons of suffering, are seasons of anguish. People need hope. People need tools. People need support to live through them. So it's important, that we have these conversations with each other and with other people. And that's one thing we just want to share, with the listeners, out there, is that it's important that you do identify safe places to have conversations when you are in seasons of coping. And I say that with the working knowledge that some people that are in your life, they're there to consume from you. They're there to take from you. That may not be a safe place because, again, they're communicating with you maybe through that lens of receivership. But it's important that you have safe places where you can process, you can lament, you can express, therapists, psychologists, pastoral care. There are resources and tools that are available to you and available to us so that we can endure and cope and, then find a pathway to recovery, or a pathway to the new norm.
Absolutely.
Or to the new definition of wholeness. It's funny, if you would have asked us 30 years ago, what is being whole, we would have gave a religious cliche. Or not 30 years ago.
No, not 30 years ago.
20 years ago, we would have gave you a religious cliche.
Yes.
I'm full in every area of my,
absolutely.
Nothing missing, nothing but now, we talk about wholeness, it's going to hit a little different. It's going to hit a little different, like the old saints and our folks that have went on and left this world. They used to say, keep living.
Keep living.
Keep living.
My dad says that all the time. Keep living.
And I'm grateful that we are still living.
Yes.
And, as we, land the plane, that is my closing thought, with the audience, is that, to keep living, we have to learn how to live through seasons of challenge, seasons of testing. And, I'm a firm believer that our faith in God through Christ has empowered us to live and cope at a higher level than absent of faith. And the truth of the matter is we've lived on both sides of faith. And I'll testify that he has helped me. He has walked with me through seasons of testing and trial. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I'm not sure that I could have got through some of these seasons
absolutely not.
without him. And having that blessed assurance that, again, some of the old saints used to talk about. When I was younger, I was like, what you talk about blessed assurance? Oh, I get it now. Because I know that my life is more than this dash that's
Sure.
going to end up on a tombstone.
Sure.
There is a life that we're preparing beyond this life. And that is part of that blessed assurance. But back to this conversation, I know that, he has walked not only with us individually, but us together.
Yes.
And I think sometimes the testimony of that season of Jason's passing is this invisible force that would carry you, and in a certain context, carry us, that was completely invisible. It was like, how did I get through the week? I don't really know.
Yes.
How did I? And then you think back, it's like it's not like you took an extended period off of work.
No.
You didn't take an extended
No.
period off of parenting.
No, absolutely
You didn't
not.
take an extended period off of anything.
No.
And I know you mentioned, conversation you had with Jerry, but again, it's a testimony.
It is.
Of how he will walk with us through those difficult, the psalmist talks about walking through the valley. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, I'm not trying to preach here, but just
You can't help it. This is a preachable moment, and you can't help it.
But with that, we are landing the plane. You have any closing thoughts for the audience?
Yes, well, just my prayer for, again, anyone in the audience that might have resonated at all with anything that was shared today. Just number one, knowing that you're not alone.
Sure.
It can feel very isolating when you are in these moments and it's happening to you personally. Sometimes you can feel as if the weight of everything is on your shoulders and no one else can relate to that. So just to know that you're not alone in those moments where you cannot give your 10 today and where giving a 3 or giving a 5 is okay, and being okay with that. And then finding, again, those healthy ways for you to get through these seasons, whether it is definitely prayer. Definitely prayer and worship and staying connected with your faith-based community. So that's definitely a foundation and a fundamental. But even if it's things like picking up a new hobby or finding community in different places, or taking time to do something that just brings you joy is so important. Rest is so important.
Absolutely.
Shout out to my new hobby, Pilates, right?
Oh,
Oh my goodness. Shout out to Hills and Heights Pilates, West Adams.
There we go. Episode brought to you by.
Needs to be brought by. She's not paying me a dime, but you all know I'm an
Shout her out.
evangelist.
We
I'm
gonna
gonna shout her
sow.
out
We
anyway.
gonna sow.
Brandy Robinson, a Black woman-owned Pilates studio, West Adams, built a wonderful community there. So many wonderful instructors. I ain't gonna shout all of them out because I don't want to miss anybody, but definitely finding something that will bring you joy is so important for you to be able to do. And then making sure that you're doing those things consistently. Like even on the days where you might be feeling a little bit more okay, keep doing the things. Like, don't let your discipline break down. Keep doing the things that are helping you incrementally improve. Seeing a therapist, so important. So keep doing those things, even in the moments where you feel like you're on the other side, so that you can just undergird yourself and prepare yourself to walk through those seasons. And even if you're doing it for the girl like I was earlier days, and doing it for the sake of family, keep doing it until it becomes a natural thing for you to do, because you're not alone in that. You are not alone in that. That is a real moment. It's a real thing. And even if you're holding yourself together with duct tape and laughter, you can hold it together with the help of Christ, you can hold it together. So
thank
that's
you,
it.
Jamila, for sharing and being
Yes.
transparent, with me, with the audience. I think that this episode matters. Not to say the other episodes don't matter, but I know this episode matters. And my hope and prayer is that somebody listening within the few days of this airing will be blessed, and that their life will be changed forever. So we're going to sign off here from With Love, the Chambers. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, drop us some comments, and stay connected with this ever unfolding conversation.
Yes.
Signing off.
This episode of With Love the Chambers is brought to you by the Vision Engineering Collective, where purpose meets precision. Whether you're launching a bold initiative, scaling your organization, or navigating complex projects, their team brings over 25 years of expertise in project management, strategic planning, and vision execution across sectors like tech, healthcare, education, and nonprofit. Ready to turn your vision into reality? Visit www.thevcollective.info to learn more.
That's a wrap for today's episode of With Love, the Chambers.
We hope you laughed, learned, and felt encouraged along the way.
If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs a little love and wisdom today.
You can also connect with us online on all social media platforms at Rufus Chambers Online and at Jamila Chambers. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time,
Keep living, keep laughing, and keep learning with love, the Chambers.